I've actually filmed a couple of case studies of some auctions recently, but firstly, before you get to the auction, I just want to run you through some ideas and concepts that you can use. One is a pre-auction offer. So once you know what you're prepared to pay for a house, potentially you could submit an offer to the real estate agent for that amount before they go to auction. That way they don't have to pay for the auction advertising, and on the day they don't have to risk not reaching that amount. So let's use the 10% rule. This rule is put in place so an agent cannot advertise 10% less than the vendor's reserve. So if a house was advertised at $300,000, if I put in an offer for $332,000 for example, it's just above that 10%. So I should be able to confidently know that putting in that offer is above the vendor reserve. Now the only reason they won't accept it is that they think maybe it's a hot market and the price might go even higher on the day. So that's fair enough, they might hold off. But it is still one potential option of getting into the market and not having to go to auction. I guess the downside is if you went to auction day in a slow market and there was going to be no bidders, you might have overpaid for the property of what the market was prepared to pay. Another absolute key for first home buyers could be varying the terms before the auction. It's sort of an unwritten rule that you need 10% and settlement's going to be 30 to 60 days, but that doesn't have to be the case. After all, if you're the highest bidder on the day, why wouldn't the auctioneer change the rules for you? Because you're going to be paying a higher price than anyone else was prepared to pay. By that I mean, rather than having a 10% deposit, why not arrange beforehand to have a 5% deposit only? Because that money is just going to be sitting in a trust account anyway, so it might be better off sitting in your account earning a bit of interest for those extra couple of months. The other thing you can potentially vary on is the settlement date. So rather than having a 30 or 60, you can probably string it out to 90. It's not always going to work if the vendor's bought another place already and they're going to need the money to go into their next place. But you can always ask. Whenever you vary the terms before an auction, don't just rock up on the day and expect them to do it. Make sure you do it at least 3 or 4 days in advance and have it in writing so both parties know exactly where they stand should you be the winning bidder on the day. I'll cut away now to some more footage of these case studies. Hello and welcome to my presentation on auctions. This house is only 3 doors up from me, and on the weekend it was sold at an auction, so I thought it was a great opportunity to come up and let you guys know exactly what happens and how I would go about bidding on such a house. It was advertised about a month ago at $300,000 plus, which usually means the reserve is about $330,000, being 10% higher than the $300,000 advertised. I also did my research. I know that the median price for a house in this suburb is about $395,000. So going by those, there's quite a big difference in those two prices. It's only a 2-bedroom house, so it's a bit small compared to normal, but that's not enough to justify being such a large difference in between. So I could quite confidently estimate that it'd sell for at least $360,000 up to $380,000. I can tell you that on the day it was absolutely packed in our street. A lot of first home buyers and investors came along to have a look, thinking they had a chance because it was only advertised at $300,000, so it's in a lot of people's budgets. Unfortunately though, being a lot of competition, it's always going to go for a reasonably good price because emotion's going to come into it, which also means that a first home buyer is probably going to bid higher than an investor because an investor knows their numbers and they're going to stop at a certain point. Whereas a first home buyer will just go that little bit extra, not planning to, but just letting emotion get the better of them. So the auction started with the first bid being at $330,000, which was from an investor knowing that this 10% rule. As soon as he put his bid in, the agent went inside and came back out saying, yes, the property is on the market. From there was about 4 serious bidders, and along the way the investor went out at about $355,000. Another investor wearing a suit was here. He went out at about $360,000, and then it was left between probably 2 first home buyers to battle it out to see who would get the house in the end. The house ended up going for $378,000, which was $48,000 above the reserve, so you can imagine the homeowner was very happy. I also had a chat to the young lady that bought the house, and she was very happy, although she did admit to me that she did spend more than she was going to based on her original budget. But that's what happens. People are sick of looking at house after house, so in the end they might spend $10,000 more than they're going to just to get in. So what are some tips that I've learnt just based on this particular property? Well, I would have had the opportunity to go to open inspections for a month beforehand, so I've got plenty of time to do my due diligence on this particular property, as well as researching similar ones in the area. A big key is not letting the agent know what your limit is or showing emotion towards the house. An agent will know that on the day, if you bid 375, someone comes along and bids 376, that he can push you to do that 377 because it's only an extra $1,000. But then, if the other person comes in and bids 378, he'll do the same tactic over and over again, just pushing off that 1,000, saying it's only $1,000, whereas a matter of fact, it's 2,000 above your last bid, and it could be, 10,000 above what you were going to pay originally. So you just can't get caught up in that game. You've just got to be strong, and if you do miss out on the house, so be it. It wasn't to be, and there's plenty out there. I'd probably recommend, if you're not all that confident, is getting a friend to bid on your behalf, someone with experience, just so they'll stop at the limit and not get caught into any tactics. I've been to auctions where people have got on their phone and rung their partner and started saying, oh, just a little bit more, and you just shouldn't get into that sort of situation. Know your limit, stick to it, be strong.